So I got cut off on that last part, but as I was saying, it has it could have benefits to the labor market as well. If we allow more workers to work regardless of a license, we have more businesses in the market and more jobs for people. I'm sure we all want a good selection in jobs, if that's the case. And that was the end of the studies that I just thought I would bring to the attention of the viewers. And now to talk about some of the issues with the statewide licensing on contractors. So far, California does have licensing. Nevada does have licensing. Arizona does have licensing, and they're pretty much the same. But many of the states do not license contractors, or they have exemptions around projects or the scope of projects. Pennsylvania is a registration-only state, so there is no, like here in California, you have to have 4 years of full-time experience or 6 years part-time just to qualify for the license. That's without taking a test, passing the 2 tests that are 100 questions each, which is pretty absurd. In Pennsylvania, it's just a registration. There's no years. You just, if you want to be a contractor, you go ahead and sign up. You're good to go. And that's also the case in Washington, the state of Washington, and Idaho and Montana. Those are registration-only states. There is no statewide licensing. If contractors want to become contractors, they just need to register and pay the fees and finish the apply with the application, and they're ready to go. And despite all this, despite the absence of, some would say, or some worry, especially coming from our state in California, the lack of experience and the risk of harm to consumers, probably any of our viewers in those states of Washington, Idaho, Pennsylvania will tell you their houses are just as sturdy, just as well built, just as nice as any state that is licensed. And certainly, I would say, far cheaper in result of the absence of licensing, because the general builders, they have a wider selection. They're allowed to build at a cheaper price with possibly better workers. And there's some other states too that do license contractors, but they allow exemptions from projects. So in California, the only exemption contractors have to avoid licensing is projects below $500 in labor and material. So in today's inflation, material, if you add up just a project, even just a simple electrical or small bathroom project, you're gonna hit that limit real fast. You're making pennies. So that limit's real low. That limit's been the same $500 limit since 1929. So that'll tell you how outdated this system is in California. But I would say, Tennessee, contractors who perform projects below $25,000 in labor and material do not require a license. There is no statewide certification they need to perform any public or residential projects. So that is a more feasible amount, $25,000. I mean, it's still fairly low in our business, but for the small guys, for the small contractors, for the that gives you some room to do some decent sized projects. So Tennessee is pretty nice on that regard. Who else? Alabama's limit is $50,000 in labor and materials and below. And again, that's a lot more feasible. It's a higher number, so you're obviously taking on bigger projects. Louisiana is another one. I believe there's $75,000. So that's up there. You're letting the little guys get a healthy cut, so that's nice. The Carolinas, North and South Carolina, recently I noticed they raised their exemptions. It used to be $15,000 and $25,000, I believe, and now they raised it to $50,000, and $50,000. So it's given workers a lot of room to have opportunity. So that's good. And these are just states with the exemptions. There's others like Minnesota and Ohio where there is licensing, but if you perform a single trade, if you're solely a painter or solely a framer, you don't need a license. You're not required to hold a license. So that's nice. That's another nice aspect of those states. And then you get to states where there's just no licensing in general. And you get the term the Wild West, especially in Texas, the state of Texas. There is no licensing for contractors. Same with Oklahoma. Same with the state of Maine, Vermont. Georgia and Florida, there is licensing, but like Ohio and Minnesota, there's exemptions for subcontracting, so you're not required to hold a license. And these are states to where it's notorious lower cost of living, higher amount of housing, and that's directly in part to better policy. But the negative aspect of all this is all these states have different laws. And like the study from the White House is these laws, these variations in state laws make it harder for contractors and reduces their incentive to move across state lines. If we had a fair and equal system to where contractors from California are held to the same standard or have the same opportunity as those in Maine, those in Texas, those in Washington, those in Florida, there would be more of a fair market, more of a fair, productive market when it comes to housing, because our builders would be able to move where they want and not be restricted by state policy, state licensing. And I've talked to plenty of contractors so far, and a lot of them, that is the main factor, is finding a state with pro-business policies and one that doesn't have onerous licensing like California. So that is another issue. States